How much is your life worth? Let's talk about it, but first hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you stay educated on how your money works. There are a lot of conversations right now that seem to pit economics against life and health. There is a debate over the trade-offs of reopening the economy, for example, and over hazard pay for essential workers. But the messy mix of balancing human costs with economic costs did not start and end with the pandemic. It happens all the time in civil courts, for-profit companies, and in fact, regulatory agencies use value of life as part of their regular work. So how much is a human life worth? The question's complexity resides in the fact that how we arrive at the price tag on human life says a great deal about our priorities. The price tags and the methods used to develop them are a reflection of our values as a society. They are infused with influences from economics, ethics, religion, human rights, and law. Ideally, there would be a simple answer of how to value a human life that most could agree on, yet there is no such answer. The philosopher Isaiah Berlin stated that humans have a deep and incurable metaphysical need to search for timeless truth that does not exist. Instead, we need to accept that there are many competing truths about a plurality of values. The task of valuing life has many competing truths and no simple answer. You may find this frustrating that we cannot summarize with one key bullet point or a single take-home message about how human life is valued. But topics as complicated as this often cannot be boiled down to one pithy solution that satisfies nearly all interested parties. Valuing some lives more than others seems logical and natural to many of us. Given the choice of saving the life of a convicted serial murderer or the life of a heroic police officer, most would choose to save the police officer. On a more personal level, empathy drives us to value the lives of those closest to us more than the lives of those we do not know. If you had to choose between saving the life of a stranger or the life of your child, wouldn't you save your child? For others, valuing all lives the same has more intuitive logic. It's a simple answer. It resonates with many people's stated perspective, and it's in line with the perspective that if life must be valued, then no one should receive preferential treatment. This notion of valuing life equally is not a throwback to an idealistic, egalitarian philosophy, but rather one that resonates among many people. Consider billionaires Mark Zuckerberg and his wife Priscilla Chan. Their open letter to their newborn daughter stated, "We believe all lives have equal value, and that includes the many more people who live in future generations than live today." This sentiment is mirrored in the philosophy of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We see equal value in all lives. Valuing all lives the same is counterintuitive to many. After all, it equates the saints with the sinners, Nobel Prize winners with homeless heroin addicts, the inventor of a life-saving vaccine with a mass murderer. Some take the philosophical perspective that human life is priceless. Individuals who take this stance conclude that the question of how much a human life is worth is meaningless or unanswerable. However intellectually satisfying, their perspective ignores the reality that human life is constantly being monetized and that they should therefore be done in an equitable way. You have to take the pragmatic approach of focusing on the real-world methods of how life is valued and the implications and limitations of these methods. The prices depend on who is doing the valuation, the methods they are using, the purpose for the valuation, and quite often whose life is being valued. Many excellent economists have tackled the daunting task of putting a price tag on life. These economists view this as necessary exercise to generate key inputs for cost-benefit analysis. This attempt at monetizing life flies in the face of those who maintain that life is priceless and cannot be valued. Economists must make assumptions, and while the math underneath their estimates may sometimes be complex, the key assumptions built into these estimates are straightforward and unfortunately riddled with limitations and often a lot of flaws. Methods that rely on surveys that pose hypothetical questions with little basis in reality will always produce questionable results. For example, surveying people on how much money they would need to be paid to accept a 1% increase in the chance of dying of lung cancer will result in broad ranges of answers. The fact that these surveys are given to an unrepresented sample of the population adds more issues. The additional step of excluding responses that don't fit within the bounds of what has been predefined as acceptable compounds those flaws. These methods are highly suspect both theoretically and practically, but they exist and are being used to develop key inputs that influence decision-makings in our lives. Unlike philosophical debates, these methods and their outcomes can be readily examined and statistically adjusted to produce different, potentially fairer outcomes. With all these limitations on how to estimate the value of life, we are left with a limited number of choices. Price tags are being continuously placed on our lives. If we care about equity, we need to ensure that the science behind these estimates is not oversold and that the fairness is always a consideration when cost-benefit analysis is performed. No situation should exist where a court determines that someone's death does not merit damage since their death saved money. No situation should exist where the death of one billionaire is deemed to be worth more than the deaths of 100 people who earned much less. No situation should exist where a company unnecessarily risks people's lives to save a few dollars. No situation should exist where unequal valuing of human life leads to denial of basic human rights. But unfortunately, those situations do exist. All lives are precious, but they are not priceless. Rather, they are priced all the time. Often the price tags are unfair. We need to ensure that when lives are priced, that they are priced fairly so that human rights and human lives are always protected. So what are your thoughts? Objectively speaking, how much do you think you're really worth? Leave a comment down below and let's get a discussion started. And as always, take care of your money.